How's it going? I'm Brandon Lee, and welcome to part 2 of my tutorial series about the DJI RS4 gimbal. And in this tutorial, we're going to be shooting at night. So we're going to try out a lot of the features of this gimbal to get some advanced shots. If you want to learn more about the gimbal, there will be a link in the description of this video, as well as a link to the Focus Pro system. And there will also be a link to my film school Unscripted Studio, so be sure to check that out too. This next shot is going to be a really challenging one. I'm going to start on the background on a neon sign and then pan over to Kevin's feet and rack focus to them, and then tilt up to his face while I track with him for a profile shot as he walks, and then let him exit frame with the background staying out of focus. So this is tricky for framing, it's tricky for blocking, and it's also tricky for focus. And I'll explain to you how I'm going to do it. I've got my 75mm lens on my camera, and the gimbal is going to be in pan, tilt, follow mode. So this is going to follow the pan and the tilt, but not the roll. Then I'm going to start the shot in manual focus using the Focus Pro motor and controlling the focus with my finger. I'm going to start focused on the background and then pull with my finger to rack focus to Kevin's shoes in the foreground. And then as I tilt up to Kevin's face, I'm going to press the custom key with my thumb and trigger autofocus. That will let the autofocus detect Kevin's face and track him for the middle of the shot. And then I'm going to press that custom key one more time to switch back to manual focus right before Kevin exits the frame. It's really important to practice and rehearse your blocking with the actor and the camera so that you can get all this timing perfect during the shot. All right, so let's go ahead and try it. 3, 2, 1, go. Cut. Now we're going to do a fast running shot. I'm going to use a wide angle lens. I switched out to my Samyang 18mm f2.8 lens. And to help out the stability, I will be using the in-body image stabilization on the A7S III set to active mode. So one hand is going to hold the main handle of the gimbal, and the other hand is going to hold the briefcase handle of the gimbal. And my gimbal is going to be in all lock mode, so it doesn't follow my pan or my tilt or my roll. The camera is going to face backward toward Kevin as he runs, so I get his face, and I am going to face forward so I don't trip while I'm running. So that means I won't really be able to see what I'm shooting. I'm going to be shooting blind, but that's okay because the gimbal is in lock mode, and I've directed Kevin to make sure that he keeps himself as centered as possible in my frame throughout the shot. So let's see how this goes. Here I go. Past me. This next shot is going to look like a crane move. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rise up my gimbal while I do a tilt up, and the two movements combined will create a movement that looks like it was done on a jib or a crane. My lens is at 75mm, manual focus mode. I don't want the focus to shift at all throughout this shot. My focus is going to be fixed at infinity. So if you switch the little switch on the side of the gimbal all the way down to FPV, then you can access custom mode from the LCD screen. And in custom mode, you can choose which axes you want the gimbal to follow: pan, tilt, and roll. In this case, I've only enabled tilt. So that means it will tilt, but it won't pan and it won't roll. That gives me a perfectly straight tilt up during my shot. The other important setting for the gimbal is I've turned down the speed of the follow to 6. This is a very, very low follow speed. So that means that I can finally control the speed of the tilt with my wrist like this. If I used a faster follow speed, it would be a lot harder to do a precise tilt up. And this does need to be ultra precise because I'm using such a long lens, 75 millimeters. And here's one tip about getting a really precise ending to your gimbal movement. If you need to stop at a certain mark with a certain framing, you don't just want to let the gimbal drift to a stop because it might drift off the mark. Instead, the more accurate way to end your gimbal movement is to do a tiny movement in the opposite direction. So for instance, I'm tilting up, and then at the very end, I'm going to pull down just a tiny, tiny bit on the gimbal. Just like that, a tiny little pull down, tiny little tilt down. Or if I was panning, I would just pan in the opposite direction a little bit, just enough to force the motors to stop smoothly. So that's how I'm going to get the perfect frame at the end of this tilt move. All right, let's go ahead and give it a try. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, that's the end of the tutorial. Please check out the description of this video because there will be links to the RS4 gimbal, the Focus Pro system, and my film school, Unscripted Studio, if you want to learn more from me. Otherwise, get out there, get shooting. I'll see you next time.